Orbis86. Welcome to our event. We are going to have a couple of great sessions, so I can't wait to get started. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers today, and you're going to hear great insights on both sides of the spectrum, from Web3 to AI. This event wouldn't have been possible without the help of our sponsors. We are going to hear more about Hedera in a minute, but before we just do that, let's take a quick minute to see what is Hedera.
Hedera is the most used, sustainable public distributed ledger in the world, with use cases from preserving testimony to anchoring warning systems, ensuring the safe storage of vaccines, and allowing us to get back to life as we knew it, offsetting our carbon footprint while enjoying the new token economy. These are just a few of the game-changing applications built on Hedera, which is governed by the world's leading organizations and fueled by HBAR, the world's greenest cryptocurrency. What future will you build?
Also, I want to give a quick shout out to all of us partners. These have been the folks who have been with us through the 15+ events that we have hosted so far. We also want to give a shout out to our media partners who take the effort to push out PR releases from our event to over 300 different publications. So we have Coin Republic, CoinBrit, and Voice of Crypto. A quick word about Orbis86. We are focused on building utility as a service for Web3 communities. These events, these are community events that we host to onboard people. To date, we have hosted over 15+ events globally. Many events in New York, but we have also hosted events in London, Dubai, India, and we hope to host more events in Africa, etc. too. Again, these are community events, so we don't make money from it. So any support that we get from the community is highly appreciated. I want to invite Jessica to quickly talk about Yorkseed.
Hola! We get everyone here. Outsider, come in. Come to the Dubai room, all right? All right. My name is Jessica Sophia Wong, and I am the CEO and founder of Yorkseed. Who is the Yorkseeder in the room? Make some noise. Okay, hi. So Yorkseed is a global venture capital community for founders and investors. We have about 18 global hubs from New York, Paris, London, Bay Area, all the way to Buenos Aires and Hong Kong. And we're targeting about 11 conference hubs, including World Economy Forums, South by Southwest, Collision, Web Summit, NFT, New York, Paris, and Blockchain Paris, like next week. So yes, I am building this community because I believe that's a way to bridge the communication gap between investors and founders, not just locally, but globally. So we have our information around. Feel free to sign up for our newsletter. Every Monday, we share all the events where you can meet founders and investors in all my global hubs. So make sure you sign up for that to take advantage of that. And we are one of the premier venture community in New York City. We are approaching 1,000 members now, all exclusive managing daily, on WhatsApp channel. So yes, my information is around. Feel free to talk to me after, or talk to some Yorkseeder in the room. So I'm looking forward, very glad to be here and meeting every one of you. So voila, let the show begin.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jen Lalu. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mobile Growth Association. And we are so grateful to be here today with Sonia, Orbis86, and so many of the other partners. I'm here today just to tell you a little bit about our new initiative. Back in 2019, we decided to become an association, not just based around events. But then over COVID, we noticed that a lot of our community was transitioning from the mobile space into Web3. And not just Web3 and mobile, but Web3 in a variety of different ways. So what we've done is we've created a whole new division of our company, and it's called Web3 Growth Association. We've left some flyers out if you want to join. It's free, and we are interested really in bridging the gap between Web 2 and Web 3. There's a lot of Web 3 curious people out there who don't quite know how to get into it, and we've seen a lot of that in our current community, and we just want to be an open and welcoming space for anybody who's interested to get their foot in the door, get that job, learn what they need to learn to really jump into Web3 full force. And with that, I will turn it over to Jessica.
Yes, thank you, Jen. Thank you for the introduction. And now, let's the representative from Langrenus Fund to come on stage. Kevin. There you go. Hello, Kevin. Passing the torch.
Hi, this is Kevin. So I'm the tech partner of the Langrenus Fund. So we're originally in Bay Area, but right now, like, we come to New York. And our fund was established by some professionals originated with background in Google, Uber, and also OKX. So we do early stage project investing and also some add-on services like the marketing and also operation. Incubation also in our scope. So we have some track record, more than 20 projects like the KuCoin and also Compound. Bitcoin Layer 2 we also invested. So if you're passionate in this space, feel free to reach out to us. And yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are about to start our fireside chat. Welcome Elaine Song and Michael Cantor and David Berlin. Please come on stage.
Thanks very much for joining us. Thank you to the Orbis team and for arranging this and inviting us here. We're going to have a great conversation. Obviously, the theme of the event, as you have seen, is Web3 with the X AI. So it's the intersection of these two things. And this is the subject of a lot of conversation around the blockchain industry. Real quick, I'm David Berlin, editor-in-chief of Blockchain Journal. And we have Michael Cantor, who's with Tierbot. You're the CEO of Tierbot, and Elaine Song with the HBAR Foundation. We're not going to go into who we are and what we do, much more than that, because we only have 20 minutes to cover a pretty complex topic. If you want to learn more about any of the things that we do, any of us up here, catch us after the session is over, or look us up and track us down, and we'll be happy to talk to you otherwise, right? There we go. So we've kind of colluded ahead of time to talk about what the format's going to be, and Web3 plus AI or times AI is such a broad topic that we want to first just talk about AI and what some of the big challenges are with AI. I myself, not a big expert with AI, of course. How many people in the room have used something like ChatGPT? Everybody. So you're all experts, of course, right? Just like everybody else. I was saying earlier that suddenly everybody on my LinkedIn is now pitching themselves as an expert on AI. I was like, wow, there's a lot of new experts out there. So, but AI does present some challenges. It presents challenges to those of us who are not deeply familiar with the technology, those of us who are out there living in the world, not early adopters like many of you are, and who don't know how their lives and the daily outcome of everything they're doing is impacted by AI. And those are some real serious challenges. So I want to talk about the challenges first, and then we'll talk about how blockchain can maybe address some of those challenges. And then we'll get around to the sponsor of the session, it was Hedera, and find out why Hedera is uniquely positioned to take on those particular blockchain use cases. So let's first start with you guys. And Elaine, I'll go to you. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you see as being the most pressing problems that we're facing with AI?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest ones is probably what puts AI and Web3 or crypto as two kind of dichotomous ideas, right? So I think on the one hand, you have Web3 or crypto protocols, blockchains that really were built to create a sense of trust, right? Instead of trusting, you verify. It's this novel way of understanding how you can actually be certain of what's happening, right? Or what, how data is being transacted. On the other hand, you have AI where you are inherently asking the user or asking the business or whoever to trust that you are using the algorithms and the data in the way that you say you are. And from my perspective, I think that's probably one of the biggest gaps or biggest challenges with AI right now. I think there are, like we'll talk about later today, a lot of solutions, in terms of the intersection and how to bridge that. But from my perspective, that verifiability is something that is missing in
What's
AI.
a tangible problem that we face where AI or the data is not being used the way we think? Like, what do people experience every day? I don't want to lead the witness here. I read about it in the papers and I see, so like, what's a really good example of that everybody faces?
Well, I think probably a very visible one was, I think Google's AI when they rolled it out, right? It was kind of in their attempt to be incredibly ethical. The results that the AI model was putting out was just not
highly unethical.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a good way to describe it. So, and I think in those scenarios, right, the ability to actually understand and have transparency around how the algorithms were built and like kind of where they pulled this data and like what were the actual kind of machine learning technologies that they used that then generated what I'm sure Google would consider was a faulty rollout. I think that would have added a lot of interesting insight.
All right, so we're getting into this area of what sometimes we hear about responsible AI, like how do you govern it? All right, Michael, the name of your company is Tierbot AI. It's got AI literally in the name. So same question to you, like what are the big challenges that we're facing today?
I think Elaine did a really job covering them, but I think in my head, the three biggest challenges, like one for people and people resources, like you think about it and you're like, oh my gosh, this thing might replace my job one day. And I think from my perspective, we're not there yet, but a lot of us are using AI in our everyday lives to complete tasks and do tasks, and that fear is there. But you look at tooling like autonomous agents and you actually try it out, and the reality is we're so far from that point where anyone's job is really going to get replaced. Two, I think the biggest fear is all of this data, these gigabytes, terabytes of data are being used by these models, but where does that data come from? Where are they training it from? Is it from private sources? Is it open source? Is it sourced by ethical means? Who's training it? Who are the trainers? It's confusing. And right now, for a lot of models, it's pretty much a black box. We don't really know, right, where that data is coming from. And then the third biggest thing is when you ask an AI a question, a lot of times the answer is quite confident, right? Like, hey, here's the solution. And then you look it up and you find out that it's actually not accurate. You find answers from these AIs that aren't right. It's factually inaccurate. And I think that's a challenge that we have to solve either through governance or working together within our organizations and through the development of AI to get better at. We're not at the point where we can trust AI 100%.
One of the biggest problems that we as human beings face is this idea of misinformation and disinformation. And AI has entered that ecosystem. Whether it's through the manipulation of the AI-based manipulation of some existing factual information, or it's just the deep fake creation of something that pretends to be reality when it's not. So is this an issue as well in your minds?
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Like, you could use AI to do wrong or do good quite easily, depending on, it's just as simple as what training parameters are used in this model and who's training the model. If the models and the training parameters were all open source and easy to verify, then we can actually know for certain, like, okay, this is how it works and this is why it works.
Can we unpack, you talk about training models, I'm not an expert, but my understanding is, you have the person who wrote the code, right? Then you have the models that are created, and then you have the data that those models work on. Those are the three primary kind of bucket areas of technology that influence the outcome of some AI algorithm, right? So So the question really is, so let's get into this blockchain part of the conversation. Like if you look at those three areas, like where does blockchain fit in to introduce the idea of responsible AI, or to make the models more trustworthy, or to make the data itself more trustworthy, or to make sure that the code is doing what it's supposed to be doing, or that some programmer didn't introduce their own biases into the code?
Yeah, I think that's a really good start. One of the big things, to be honest, when it comes to blockchain and AI, I think a lot of times there shouldn't even be a conversation of blockchain and AI because it's simply not feasible. You look at the scope of data required to run an AI, and it's hundreds of gigabytes, sometimes terabytes of data, and it's humongous compute requirements between GPU and memory that has to run. You look at a typical blockchain like Bitcoin, and it's simply impossible to imagine putting an entire AI model on Bitcoin. For example, to store 1 gigabyte of data on Bitcoin, it would cost you $1.5 million, just 1 gigabyte. Now, if we look at scalable hash graphs like Hedera as an alternative, you can actually put a whole gigabyte on Hedera for just $200. So that invites companies to actually think about oh, wait, so if I want to open source my model and I want to open source the training parameters used for that model, I can actually feasibly do that. And it could be cheap to go and do something like that. So it invites to the conversation that the solution with using blockchain and AI is a possibility. So then you start asking questions like, okay, I can put these things on chain. That means that we can verify them. So all of the challenges that we were just talking about a few minutes ago, there's a solution to them. Let's put the data on chain, and then let's test the outcomes of those models. Now that we're testing the outcomes, we can see, okay, this isn't working right. That's not working right. We can, for example, issue a governance token and have folks within the community vote on how they'd like to change that model so that it can get them a solution that makes more sense or less sense, depending on the outcome that you're looking for.
And by the way, Elaine, if you want to rip the mic out of his hand at any moment, you're welcome to do so. I think about the data, and you just talked about $200 to put a gigabyte of data. I have a thumb drive that holds I think a terabyte. A thing cost me about $50. Yeah. So these don't sound like promising economics quite yet. Why wouldn't we just kind of take a data set, keep it off chain, sign it with blockchain, so that you have a record of the provenance of the data set and the fact that it hasn't been tampered with? At least that solves one particular problem, does it not? Elena, I don't know if you want to take that one on?
I think I'm actually going to let him.
You're going to let Michael take that? Okay.
He's obviously much more expert in kind of the technicalities.
Okay, sure.
I think that's one way to solve the problem, right? There are ways where you can take a humongous piece of data, like a gigabyte of data, and you can convert it to a SHA-256 hash, and then you can go compare it off-chain with that same data set. That's definitely a solution. But I think when you look at it from economics of scale, it's still cheaper to do it on a network like Hedera that's literally thousands
relative
of times cheaper.
To other networks. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What about other thoughts on how blockchain solves for some of the big problems we talked about? Elaine, we just talked about bias. What about the idea of the programming? Programming the bias in. How do we get rid of that? How does blockchain, layer this idea of responsible AI over those three major buckets we talked about: the data, the models, the programming?
Yeah, I think for me it really is the ability for some networks to process data in an efficient and scalable way, right? I think that really is at the core the innovation around DLT, right? The ability to actually process this data is something that I would say is probably cryptography's and DLT's kind of contribution to the world. So I really think kind of being able to layer in the open source decentralization and kind of that verifiability is incredibly important to AI. I actually think one thing that's also interesting is over the past 10, 15 years, within crypto, we have started exploring kind of new flavors of these use cases, right? Whether it's DeFi or like NFT markets or a supply chain. And I think that the intersection where in this industry, we actually have these new and novel use cases to actually pressure test and train these AI models, I think is ultimately, for me, like a really exciting opportunity.
Pressure testing, you mean using the data that's on chain as the source of data, and obviously that data is very public and very transparent. I want to come back to the decentralization thing because that's pretty interesting. You know, everybody, we talk about the decentralizing forces of blockchain, but one of the really interesting aspects is if you say, look, one of my theories is that the party that's most likely to tamper with data or mess with it or do something fraudulent with data is the party that we originally trusted to be the safekeeper of the data in the first place. We hear a lot about that. You will go to the SEC and look at any one of their press releases. You'll see that most of them are about some sort of tampering with their own data to create some, you know, facade of their business that doesn't really exist. So the idea of decentralized, the decentralizing force that blockchain brings here is that the people who are responsible for actually keeping the data, storing the data, committing the data to a database are the people who are completely disinterested in the data itself. They just want to get paid through staking or mining or whatever it is to put the data on chain. So that's a pretty powerful thing when you think about how do you make the data more trustworthy. Well, guess what? It's not the person we originally trusted with the data. It's a bunch of other people who committed that data to chain and validated it before it goes on chain. But you do need something that I think leads into the next part of our conversation, which is why Hedera is well suited. You need a consensus algorithm that lives apart from as a separate service on the chain on a given chain. And as far as I know, there's not too many what I would call consensus as a service offerings out there. So why don't you take that one on?
Yeah, I mean, definitely from a technical perspective, right? The hash graph consensus algorithm is unique in its ability to process data in the way that it does. So, you know, Michael's talked about it a lot. Hedera really is one of the only networks that can do this. From my perspective, I actually think about it much more like kind of like a second tier or like a second level, which is the fact that the consensus algorithm has created this stability and made it possible for large organizations like the Hedera Governing Council to actually build and use the network, I think is very unique and impactful for the future of AI, right? So, you know, you have these large AI companies who are looking to use them for their own like tech use cases, and, you know, everyone and their mother is coming out with their next AI model, right? Which is great. But the council is structured in a way where you have representation across all industries, regardless of size and geography. And I really think that level of decentralization and the interest that these organizations have in using both AI and Hedera is really unique. And so I really think kind of Hedera, both as a network from a technical perspective, but also as an ecosystem in terms of what it's built up over the past six years, is really unique.
Michael, you're building on Hedera, so you know, I just want to come back to that idea that the consensus algorithm or the consensus service, HCS, I think is what it's called. I think, right, if you look at other chains, the consensus algorithm, which is not exported as an independent service, it's available through an API. It's used on other chains, their algorithm, to validate transactions. The reason that you have an API to something like a consensus service is you can validate other things like the sorts of activities that would take place in administering responsible AI. So you mentioned cost. You talked about $200 to put a gigabyte of data on chain, but right now there are a whole bunch of chains out there that are low cost. So what do you say to somebody who says, well, wait a minute, you know, I could probably do that on one of these other chains for the same amount of money. Like, what's so special about Hedera in that case?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it gets asked a lot. You know, we look at these other EVM-based networks, and yes, or voting-based networks, proof of stake, whatever. Today, they're cheap. They're very cheap, but the token price is also cheap. And the nodes, because the volume of transactions that are coming in right now, they'll take basically any transaction. But we can't say that it's going to be cheap tomorrow or a week from now or 2 weeks from now when the volume on the network starts ticking up and the miners or validators start to have to make a decision, which transaction do I actually want to take? Do I want to take the transaction that has the higher gas fee or the one with the lower gas fee? And you were talking about economics earlier about how folks just want to get paid that are running these platforms. And the answer is always, I'm going to pick the one with the higher transaction fee. On Hedera, because it's a hash graph and not a blockchain, we don't have that problem. We don't mine blocks. There's no queue of transactions coming in. Instead, transactions are fairly ordered as they come in. So the idea is first. If I submit a transaction to a node and you submit a transaction to a node 2 seconds after me, my transaction will always execute first. So you have that layer of trust, and that's, I think, partially why a lot of people look at Hedera and they call it the trust layer of the internet, because you can be certain through consensus timestamps that your transaction will execute first, whether that's in applications of AI, sustainability, or DeFi. You can always be certain of that, and you never have to be worried that somebody is going to front run your transaction on the other side.
Yeah, but let's get back. You started to talk about cost. You mentioned the fact that these other networks, so could you just dig into that for real quickly? Why is Hedera different there?
Yes, so not only you don't have to worry about the transactions getting front run, but also with Hedera, the transactions are all fixed. They're not only low, but they're also fixed. So when I say
the cost of the transaction.
Yeah, the cost of the transaction is fixed, and it depends on which service you're going to use. But for example, if you're using the Hedera consensus service to record a 1 gigabyte file onto the service, you can be certain, and you can tell your CFO, it's going to cost approximately $200 today, tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now, unless the network votes to raise that price.
And why doesn't that exist on other networks? Is that a volatility issue on the underlying protocol token?
I think for the most part, it's because they're EVM or blockchain based, where miners get to pick the price of the transactions as they come in.
Okay. Elaine? Oh, I'm getting the hook. It's time's up. It was just, there goes my timer. So, all right, folks, that's it. If any one of the talking points that you just heard compels you to have a further discussion about it, we'll be around. So happy to chat after these sessions are over, and we'll turn it over to the next session. Thanks very much.
We have a solo talk coming up by Wayne Marcel, our FIO Lightning Talks. So welcome.
All right, I've got 3 minutes, so I'll hopefully give you 90 seconds about FIO protocol and another 90 seconds about really, kind of the premise of where we want to move forward in this space. So FIO protocol was formed over 4 years ago. We launched a protocol focused on usability. We all know there's a lot of great tech out there, but the biggest hindrance to adoption is usability. It's got to be easy for the user. We love all these great things that are being built, but until an average user can come in and use it, we have to solve those problems. So what we did is at the wallet layer, when you send and receive any transaction, any digital asset, what's the current premise? You got to copy and paste an address, right? And then if you want me to send you crypto, you have to copy and paste the address and then send it to me. And then I copy and paste it and I send it. So, and there's others in the space that set out to do the same thing, but we wanted to focus on two things. One, you can create a handle that is basically representing your wallet addresses for every chain, every coin, every token, anything you send. And also we did it in the format of user at domain. So it's more similar to an email, and we're not competing with any dot extensions because nobody's going to build websites on our protocol. All they're going to do is really just send transactions, send and receive transaction, whether that's cryptocurrency today, NFTs tomorrow. As NFTs have more and more utility, you don't have to copy and paste an address, send it to the wrong address, send it on the wrong chain. That's where we lose a lot of users. So we built the protocol. If you check us out, fio.net, we've been live for over 4 years. We've got right now about 80 different wallets and exchanges and other places that have integrated our protocol, including Sonia or Orbis86 is using the FIO protocol. But we're focusing on that and other people that are building usability layers that make it easier. So if you build something that makes setting up a wallet easier for a user, we want to partner with you. If you're building a game, we also want to partner with you. If you have a Web3 platform, our handles are perfect because you can give that user a universal handle at a low cost. FIO is a nonprofit foundation. We're not focused on selling Web3 domains and handles for thousands of dollars. Our goal is user adoption. So you can partner with us, and a majority of the on-chain revenue that's generated from using our protocol is shared with our partners on-chain automatically. So there's an incentive to use our protocol, and your users get a better experience. So how much time do I have left?
Yeah, 30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay. So, well, outside of that, that's my other challenge to everybody here. If you're building products, there's a lot of great tech out there. When we go to these conferences, we see a lot of booths and a lot of people that have really techie headlines. Let's focus on what it's going to take to bring that average user in. If your mom or dad doesn't understand how this tech works, but they can get in and use it, then you know we've got something, because that's what it's going to take to bring in the masses. We can't just keep talking about how great the tech is. We got to make it easy. And that's really my challenge. So if you're looking to build something in the space and you think FIO protocol or our technology can help you, or we can partner up, just look us up, FIO.net. You've also got my Twitter account there. Let's connect and talk. All right. Thank you. 3 minutes goes by quick.
Thank you so much, Wayne, for all the information. So the next section is something that a lot of people are looking forward to, like all other sections today, is women in Web3 and AI. Ooh, okay. If volunteers in the room, if you want to go and make a shout out, anyone interested in the panel, come back in. It's women in Web3 and AI. Yes, okay. So we are going to welcome our moderator, Sonia. Come up here.
I'm going to start by asking my fabulous panelists over here to introduce themselves one by one. And I'm going to start with Geneviève over there. I'm just going to pull this a little in the front so I can see all your beautiful faces.
So thank you so much for having me, Sonia. My name is Geneviève Lavelle, and I have been in the space now, it feels like dog's years, 7 years. And my company is called AgriLedger. My project's AgriLedger. And what we did is we built I won't say supply chain, it's more a value chain. And we did a project in Haiti. And if you didn't know where Haiti is, now I'm sure you do from the news, which allowed the farmers to be able to get their mangoes, but also going through the whole process of understanding and what needed to happen. So we were able to increase their income by 750%, decrease waste by 74%, and increase external export by 48%. So now we're looking to repeat that in other places in the world.
Amazing. Sandy?
Just introduce ourselves. Okay. Hi, my name is Sandy Carter, and I am the COO of a company called Unstoppable Domains. You guys know Unstoppable? Okay, awesome. It is a digital identity company. And we have about 3.9 million identities out there today. We're shooting for 8 billion, so we got a little ways to go. We just announced a couple of new, what we call TLDs, or digital identity identifiers. One for the city of Austin, which has been quite successful. We just announced that recently. We announced one for Pudgy Penguins. Any Pudgy Penguin fans in here? And then just yesterday we announced .pog. Anybody have pogs when you were growing up? Yeah, they've reinvented pogs for today, and they're all digital. So I think it's really exciting. I'm also the founder of a group called Unstoppable Women of Web3 and AI, which I'm really excited about. Thank you, Sarah. We have 250 companies that are supporting that right now. We've trained 55,000 women on Web3, blockchain, digital identity, and AI. So we're really proud about that. And we have recently published a list called the 150 most inspirational women of Web3. And we did that because I believe if you can see it, you can be it. So we wanted to have all of these women be amazing role models for the next generation. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for joining us here, Sandy. And finally, we have Allison. Oh, sure.
Or just use it.
I think we can hear you.
Can you hear me okay?
Okay, great.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sonia, for including us. My name is Allison Rudy. I head up our global partnerships at Google Cloud. I'm responsible for our Web3 and AI partnerships. And what does that mean? I work with primarily early stage companies who are looking to innovate and build with Google Cloud, and I work with you to then launch you within our ecosystem. My background is actually in capital markets. I spent a long time as a trader working on Wall Street, and I'm really excited because I feel like Web3 has so many great applications, as does AI actually, for the markets. And I'm really excited about all the opportunities we have within Google, within our partnership ecosystem. When I started, it was really sort of in the early days when Google was just really looking at Web3 and kind of getting launched. And we have now a pretty robust ecosystem. And you may have seen in social, we have our Google next week in Las Vegas. And I'll be speaking with one of our, actually our Web3 and AI partners. I met them when they were just a concept and nurtured them and grew them until they've launched. And now they're on our marketplace and they're really thriving. So it's a passion of mine both to work with early stage companies in this space, to obviously work with women. So I'm always looking for women founders to support, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be with you tonight.
Sorry, we just kind of quickly adjust the microphones so people can hear us better. And Sandy, I'm going to ask you a request you share yours with. I can share mine.
Okay, I'm a good sharer, so I'll share.
Yeah, that's how we women support each other. Okay, so now let's dive into the meat of the conversation, right? Sandy, I'm going to actually start with you. We know that representation in tech is an issue. Does anyone here know any figures? Like how many women, well, let me ask an easy question, right? How many women do we have on Earth? Like what percentage of the human population are females? That should be an easy one. 50%, give or take, right? 50%. Now, how many women? Now, remember, the United States of America is one of the most developed nations out there, right? You all agree with that? Yes? Okay. In a developed nation like United States, what percentage of the workforce population, what percentage of employees in tech are females?
20%.
20, you're really close. I mean, it's actually close to 25%, right? And that number becomes more dismal as we think about the different races involved. So 15% of the American population are black. However, only 3% of the women in tech are black women. That goes down to 2% for Hispanic women. And if we just compare tech, which is 25%, to Web3, 15% of the Web3 wallet holders are women. So Sandy, my question to you is, how do we tackle this inequitable scenario? And how do we bring in women to provide a broader perspective? And how do you think that would influence the entire ecosystem?
Yeah, so first let me talk about the reason why it's important. It's not just a nice to have women, or it's not just to match the numbers. All studies have shown, and there have been 49 different studies where you're looking at McKinsey or Deloitte, all of them show that the more diverse your team is, the more innovative your team is. And what you guys all think that for AI and for Web3, we need the most innovative teams on the field, right? So we need diversity because we need innovation. Now, how do we accomplish this? I think there's probably three things. There's probably more because it's a very complex situation, but I would say there are three things that we need. First is we need more education for women in the space. So Google did a great study that showed if there is a job opening out there, and there are 10 requirements for the job, a man will apply if he meets 4 of the 10 and assumes he's going to get the role. A woman will not apply unless she knows all 10. She won't even apply for the role. And so if you think about that, that means we need more education out there. When I came over from Amazon Web Services to Unstoppable, one of the articles generated 1,500 applicants for roles at my new startup, Unstoppable. but only 2% of those were women. And as I started to ask why, it's because they didn't know about Web3. They didn't really understand blockchain, and they didn't really understand AI. And so it blocked them for applying for roles. So I think that's number one. We need education. Number two, I do really believe strongly in if you can see it, you can be it. And so I think that having role models that are visible is very important. And that means role models that are Hispanic, that are African American, that are women like me, for example. Because if you see someone who's like you, then you think that you can do it more than you can't. And the third thing I think that we need is good support structures and good support systems. I've been at several parties and groups here, and I see a lot of the men who know each other and they've grown up in the space like you have. But I think we need more of that for women, where women can get to know each other and support each other and have someone they can call or reach out to as well. So I think we need those three things: more education, more role models to look up to, and finally, just more opportunity to bond together, get to know each other, and then really to support each other as well.
Amazing. And I know that our fellow panelists, Alison and Genevieve, would also have something to add to it. Let me go to Genevieve. Education is key. That was the first thing that Sandy referred to. And I would like to ask you, how could we make education more accessible, fun for more women and girls out there?
In my point of view, I think that we need to start thinking of technology like we do language and art and music. So it is usual for people to go and learn about music and learn about art. And however, technology are not part of the curriculum. So we do need, and I think that I was actually talking to a friend, and she mentioned that she's in England and they couldn't find the teachers. So there must be opportunities for some of us, because it's not really getting deep. It's about the language. We all learn how to speak English, but does that mean we're expected to be the best writers? No. It's about being able to have language. So for young girls who are growing up, and also women right now, we need to actually create those opportunities and make them very open, as Sandy has said.
Absolutely. And Alison, to follow up on that, what do you think can be done to make those opportunities more exciting? What kind of support system can we provide to women through cohorts, education, resources? What's your point of view?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I agree with you that it should be seen as another language. It's kind of like technology is kind of set out as something very separate. And I will tell you, I'm a recovering literature major. I studied literature and art history. And so when I'm walking the halls of Google and talking to people, people are very shocked that I made that transition. And I say the same thing that you said, Genevieve, that it's just another language and it's a way you can kind of shape and form your brain. So to your point around the cohorts, I think those are really good points, not only in kind of in large tech companies, but in middle schools and elementary schools, finding those avenues for, young girls to feel comfortable and to feel like they can try something. So I think it's about that sense of exploration and the ability to kind of test your boundaries and not seeing it as something that's insurmountable, that you don't have to be perfect at it to really engage and potentially pursue a path in it.
Alison, I would love for you to follow through on that conversation and educate us all on what Google is doing in order to support more startups, more females. I think a lot of us in the room, how many builders are there in the room? All right, how many of you know about Google Cloud credits for Web3 and AI companies? Okay, I'm glad that most of the builders have their hands up. So that's one way in which Google is supporting. Would love to learn more.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Sonia, for the question. And so as Sonia mentioned, there's two kind of major initiatives, and I know Sandy can speak to it in more depth, but there's a very rich startup ecosystem that you probably know about. And there's scaled programs for AI, for Web3, and for startups. And then there's also specific cohorts for Black founders, women founders. And what it does, it gives you access to, as Sonia mentioned, Google credits into the ecosystem and really taking advantage of all that Google has to offer. It's like almost like a mega university experience where you can really access certifications, training, plug into a lot of the speakers, the product managers. And I think it's a great way to obviously upskill and kind of have access. The program I run is sort of like a graduate level program. So once you've already gone through sort of that scale program and you're a more mature company, you're ready to engage with enterprise, then I usually work with those early stage companies to help you launch within our broader enterprise ecosystem within cloud.
Thank you, Alison. So again, folks, if you're looking to explore more programs, you have some fantastic ladies out here. Make sure you grab their ear on their way out. Following through our conversation, Sandy, I would love to discuss with you the role women can play in removing some of the biases that we see in the AI algorithms. So today we know that a lot of the data on the internet is westernized, as we call it, right? You actually have a third of data that's coming from Western sources, and we just spoke about how majority of the tech workers, even in US, are male. So you have, I should say, a masculine, westernized data repertoire out there. But as you start even going down and even looking at more representation, not just as racial representation missing, a lot of demographical representation missing, but the biggest underrepresented community, I say, it's women, because again, 50% of Earth's population are females. But on all other scales, the scales don't tip on our favor necessarily. So how do you think can women contribute to these growing systems, and how would they influence the biases that creep into the LLMs and the GANs that are trained on data that comes from a very singular point of view?
So I think this is a great question, but it really came to life for me when I was speaking at Davos. And one of the things we were asked to speak about was women's health. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but until 1993, researchers were not required to include women in their medical research. 1993. And so if you look at it from a data science lens, that means we have a 17-year gap in data for women around healthcare. Now, how does that showcase itself? Well, for example, there is a great AI company, and they have a solution that can indicate if you have liver cancer with just a blood draw. 77% accurate. But what they didn't tell you is that it's only 22% accurate for women.
Wow.
And why was that? Well, the AI model that was trained for the identification was done with mostly data pre-1993, which was all white male data. Another great example was during COVID. There were a lot of tests that were looking at your oxygenation level. Do you guys remember that? Well, a lot of people who were African American ended up dying because when they were measuring that, the data that was used was primarily, again, for white men. And in fact, right now there's a lawsuit because they believe because the data was not diverse, we lost a lot of great people's lives because it didn't signal that there was an issue and that they needed to go to the hospital. So this really, I think, illustrates the big significance that the lack of data has. Healthcare, of course, is a life-changing episode, but these are the problems that we need to solve. So you talked about how could women solve these problems. Well, at Davos, we partnered up with the Stanford healthcare system. And we are trying to, in an anonymous fashion, get more women who are Hispanic, who are Caucasian like myself, African American, to donate their healthcare data so that we can quickly come up to speed on a lot of those healthcare issues. I know Google is one of the companies that is involved in that. I recently volunteered to help out in that area too. where women can make a difference, we can make a difference by contributing to that data and helping out in that. But on a broader perspective, not just thinking about healthcare, because we know these gaps exist in multiple places, one of the things that a group of women have just gotten together is to have a label. You know, like today we have a label on cigarettes, and it says, these cigarettes may cause cancer. But to have a label when you're using a large language model that says, look, this data was only trained using 2% women data, only 5% African American data, so that the large language model, the producer, the creator, the builder of that would be required to really place that on their application. Now, this is already seeing significance in certain states where they've already started looking at that. In fact, one healthcare application that was getting ready to go out in the state of Texas, who raised the standard on clarifying where the data came from, actually went out and sought data on women's healthcare because they were going to be required to say that 80% of their training data had only come from white men. And so because of that, they went out, added more data, which made the model more usable. I think part of what we need to do is we really need to speak out. We need to be part of the solution to make sure that people understand how these large language models are being trained.
Those were some fabulous examples. I've spent over 10 years on the payer side of U.S. health insurance, so I completely agree with all the. Yes, it's a mess out there. I feel like the health insurance industry is a huge topic we can talk about. It's the 5th largest GDP with $3.5 trillion being spent in the United States. And yet the results, we know healthcare is neither accessible nor affordable, and neither is it equitable. To that extent, Jean-Vive, what I would love to ask you is, how can we get more women in Web3 and AI, and what are the biggest hurdles to bring them in today, and what can we do as a collective to smash those barriers and get more women in?
Right now, the coin is up, so there's money floating around. But the problem is that I'm not sure there's anything really being built. What is really the elephant in the room that we're not talking about? The funding in women, not tech funding, period, is down to 1.2%. If you are in the game, a lot of women don't know how to play the game. And we need to, again, teach, but also I think that if you ask me as a collective, is we are in the trenches of it, where a lot of us are building. So we know what it is like. And when we are successful, we should have that hand back. And that means that we should be investing. And we need to teach more women what it is like to invest. You invest 100,000, do it around 10 people, because you'll get one of them which will pay you back. That's the game. And the nurturing of project needs to be done differently. And most of over in Web3 to me is really about collaboration. You cannot go into it on your own. Even if you have the best solution, you'll need a wallet, you'll need to have a chain. So you need to have those partners. So it's very important, and it's actually a very good space for women. And we don't think about it. A lot of the larger companies are led by women. With all the downturns, we've always seen women companies are continuing to thrive, but they're doing it on a shoestring. We need to stop that. You can't build big tech, is my thing, unless you have a big check. So let's get those big checks in front.
Thank you. So, folks, invest in more women. You don't have to be a woman to invest in more women, right? But yes, if you see people around you, unfortunately, we know that the VC ecosystem is highly biased. Until last year, it was 2%. I didn't even realize it went down to 1.2%. And it's been stuck there. When a woman gets another male as a partner, it goes up to 15%, their chances of getting invested in. But
the remaining 85% are still out there seeking for folks to believe in them. So nurture a dream, right? That's how you can support more women. You can support your daughters, your sisters, and your female friends to come into this ecosystem by believing in them and supporting them. Continuing our conversation, Alison, I would love to ask you if there are any fun use cases or fun products where you feel Web3 and AI are going to help women versus, just get their inputs. Some services that are actually going to help more women and girls that are built on Web3 and AI.
I'm sure there's got to be some sort of femtech going on in there, and I can see a lot of opportunity. One of the things that we don't tout well in the Web3 is the opportunity for privacy. And really, this would be one way. So right now, unfortunately, a lot of the products, you are also giving up your information. But with a Web3 aspect, you can actually start controlling your data. So you're authenticated, that data can be used forward. And that's really the idea of being able to bring. So I think that we're seeing things in the climate space coming out quite a bit, and that is going to require AI. You have to take that data and you have to be able to mine it and say, when did the aspect happen? And so I'm expecting to see things like for women who have issues with the menstruals and all those things, and being able to regulate that, or even if you're trying to get pregnant, so having the system be able to look at that. But I think that's, again, the challenge. Last time some of these things have been done, they've been by male team, and they've been dismal in terms of the results.
Alison, can you think of any use cases that you want to share where Web3 and AI are building more possibilities or good?
I think it will ultimately benefit women, and particularly on the VC comment that you made, Genevieve. There's a DAO that I'm aware of that's trying to do kind of more a crowdfunding DAO that gives access to a broader community to invest, and that's all built on chain, and you're not required to put in large sums of money in order to invest, and you can make your own choice, and then you can kind of create communities around your choice. So if you've invested in a company that you're particularly interested in, you can kind of segment that and talk about that company and kind of talk about investing in that company and kind of building around that knowledge. And kind of, I think in part it's around that, that wealth and knowledge around building your own wealth and using the DAO and Web3 in order to be able to, gain that access and that visibility that maybe you wouldn't have had previously.
Got it. Well, we are almost at the end of the session. So what I would like to do is just go to each one of you. And if you could take 45 seconds to a minute to just leave our audience in here. And guys, you've been a fantastic audience. Thank you for that. If you want to leave them with some good closing remarks and some words of motivation, please feel free to do that. I'll start with John here.
Thank you so much. So I am stepping it up in terms of value chains and really being able to understand how things get to places. So we talk a lot about supply chain, but value chain is going to be how we can get more money into the processes. So I would love for you guys to get involved, because when we're talking about the climate agenda, there's a lot of money at the table. But we need to make sure this time that the gold is not just going to leave the ground and go elsewhere. So really getting to understand what is happening and those aspects is going to be key. So please go ahead and follow me.
John, where can people find you?
Oh, sorry. So I'm at MG Lavelle on all the platforms, LinkedIn, and my company AgriLedger is at AgriLedger on other platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. Sandy?
Okay, let's see. My 3 takeaways. One, it's not too late to get started. So go ahead and get started now. And that means both AI as well as Web3. 2, if you're a woman, be bold. At Unstoppable, we became a unicorn. We did our unicorn raise. Everybody said, oh, not at this time, not this way. And we were able to do it. So be bold, take risks. And then the third thing that I would say is always reach back and pull someone with you. And if you are a man, make sure you don't forget about your female colleagues. And women, all of us need to pull someone forward. If we all did that, imagine how many women would be in this room today. Thank you for having me. You can reach me on Twitter. Yay! Sandy_Carter, or I think every platform that's out there, Signal, Telegram, WhatsApp, you got it.
And Sandy is actually responsive on all of them. So there is a head. Allison.
Yeah, thank you very much. This has been a great experience. I really enjoyed speaking with you. I think hopefully I'm able to show you that you can study the arts and study lots of different topics and still have a successful build career in tech. I guess my takeaway is really around education and really driving that and not being afraid to try. I think sort of our traditional education system, I think, is really evolving. So there's a lot of on demand that's available that you can, and I think these kinds of forums are great. Ask lots of questions. As Sandy said, be bold. And really try to find a community and a cohort with whom you can learn and build and grow. I think that's very important. And that cohort can be multi-generational, multicultural, global, every way possible. And I think it's really one thing I learned during the pandemic is that there's really no borders. And I think it's really important to kind of continue that part of it, which was a positive, is to really kind of continue that as we, get more in depth in Web3 and AI, and we have more use cases that drive more value.
Thank you. And I am Sonia. I am also the host for the evening, so I'm sorry I was...
Let's give her a big round of applause, too. She's done a great job.
Sonia! Thank you guys for all the love, and, of course, thank you for your time. I want to thank my lovely panelists here. I was really excited about this panel because it's such a hard job just getting more women speakers, and I am blessed to be in the company of these 3 fantastic ladies. My one request to the crowd would be, I know we spoke about a lot of action items, but if you could just reach out to one woman in your life in the next 24 to 48 hours and just say a couple of kind words to them, that would mean a lot. And that's how we start. So I would love for all of you to just walk away with one tangible action item. And you don't know, you are probably going to make someone stay. So again, thank you guys. And thank you, our panelists.
Can we invite Aether on stage, please? There you go. Hey, Aether.
Hey, it's not over. So if you're leaving, don't leave. Or if you're spaced out, disappearing into your cell phone, yeah, this is also the time to not do that. But I'm gonna get started. I have some slides, so, just give me my first slide, please. Perfect. All right, so I'll introduce myself. My name is Aether. I am an artist, architect, and futurist based in Seattle, Washington. And I really utilize these mediums of augmented reality, NFT art, and AI image generation to create really forward-thinking work. As a spatial thinker, my fascination with Web3 and digital assets really comes from this one counterintuitive question: how do we make the digital more physical? I think that if we really want NFTs to be widespread adopted, we gotta bring them into our exciting physical lives and off of our boring, stale phones. All right, next slide, please. So I believe that phygital experiences really combine the spatial delight of the physical world along with the endless and wonderful flexibility of the digital. And that really allows for more rich and social technological experiences. I received my bachelor's in fine arts from Dartmouth College in 2016, and I dropped this collection of AR wearables in 2023. Next slide, please. And I've had great success with this, yes. Okay, I've had some great success with this. As of March 2024, I am in the 1 percentile of TikTok AR filter creators. I have over 1 million views and 250,000 opens. Thank you. Okay, my next slide is a video, so you can go ahead and start it. Now I'm going to give you, this is some audio to it too. Now I'm going to give you some exclusive access into a project I've been working on with a lighting fixture company. It is my first digital art product, and it's set to be a limited edition release. The elegant form of the sculpture is really inspired by water and light, and it's meant to sort of exhibit the beauty of the physical world along with the flexibility of the digital world. Thank you. It functions as a light fixture and has these different strategically placed LED lights that give it a sense of mood for the space it's inhabiting. Lightweight holographic fans line the interior of the object, allowing for beautiful holographic displays of NFT artwork. And then seamlessly integrated AR film allows for interactivity with those digital assets. So it's a digital experience. And it is called Genesis. Okay, and last slide. If you would like to support me, my socials are @ather__art. Buy my NFTs. If you want to pre-order that link for Genesis, then do that because it's gonna be lit. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That was really great. And our next and last panel. So if we're gonna get people in, this will be a very good topic. The future of wealth. Exploring investment horizons in Web3 and AI. So let's welcome to the stage Dimple Dawan, Vinit Buki, Raymond Yu, Lou Kerner, and Nisa Amois.
Thank you everyone for being here. We are going to spend the next few minutes talking about the future of wealth. So for the founders and the funders in the room, this is going to be insightful, so listen up. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and start with introductions. I would love for each of you to introduce yourselves. Before I do that, quick show of hands, how many funders do we have in the room, investors? Okay, how many founders do we have? Okay, good to know. All right, that's gonna be helpful for our discussion. Benisa, if you would like to get us started.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nisa Amoils. I've been in venture capital about 12 years. I've spent the past 6-7 years exclusively investing in AI and blockchain. I've been with a number of funds before, Scout Ventures, Dragonfly. I started A100X a couple of years ago, deployed Fund 1, on Fund 2 now, and we have seeded a lot of different companies in the space, ranging from Blockdaemon to Securitize to Nansen to Mythical Games, lots of different areas, Coinmetrics, etc. So I also do a show at the NASDAQ called The Business of Blockchain. That show airs on Bloomberg and Fox. And we cover real world use cases and talk about things other than trading and speculation. And yeah, I'm also a securities lawyer, which means that I've avoided a lot of the pitfalls along the way the past 7 years. And yeah, I sit on a few boards too. So. Oh yes, I wrote a book. It came out in 2018 about profiling women in Web3 founders. I had been writing for Forbes Crypto for about 5 years, so I decided to put all the stories in one book, and you can go find it. It's called WTF is Happening: Women Tech Founders on the Rise.
All right, I'm Lou Kerner. I'm a partner at a firm called Blockchain Co-Investors. We're a crypto fund of funds invested in 43 of the leading crypto VCs. I'm also a co-founder of the Crypto Oracle Collective. We're a Web3, decentralized Web3 advisory firm, and we have an AngelList syndicate with more than 1,000 LPs, and we've done 8 deals, a little more than $2 million so far deployed. And the founder of Crypto Mondays, the largest crypto meetup in the world.
Hi guys, good evening. This is Vineet. I run Cypher Capital, one of the VC funds out of Middle East. It's a $100 million fund, invested in close to 90 deals in the last 18 months, and overall 300 plus deals. We've invested in things like Sui, Sei, Web3 Auth, all the best ones, I would say. Interestingly, two of the startups gave us 50% of the fund back this season. Yeah, been degening a lot in NFTs recently. Started a year back. That's why I'm at NFT NYC, and I think it's a good time to be in crypto. People, still don't understand what blockchain is all about. And something that I wanted to mention was, in the morning I was with Anthony Scaramucci. He sounds exactly like you. You look like the lady version of him. He's a secure lawyer. He comes on CNBC every time. He comes from, yeah.
Everybody,
You sounded like him.
everybody knows.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Raymond?
Hi, everyone. I'm Raymond. I work at Republic, and I was also with Republic Crypto. I help lead the marketing efforts for our token offerings team so far, and raised around over $20 million, give or take, with our partners that we do work with, also helping out with NFT advisory as well on the crypto side, and also a fellow DGen.
Love that. Incredible. And I am your moderator of the evening. My name is Dimple Dewan. I am an associate at Alinea Ventures. We're an emerging fund. We focus on early stage ventures, specifically enterprise tech solutions, built by underrepresented founders. So all those founders out there, come say hi. All right, let's get started. So first things first, I want to level the playing field. I want to understand what your opinion of the current Web3 ecosystem is. What is the state? Where are we? And how do you think AI is impacting that ecosystem?
So this is, I think, the third cycle that I've been a part of. I started like 2017, 2016. So I think it is. I think the Bitcoin ETF launches, the success of that, the macro environment changing, the price the movements, sentiments changing. There's a lot of positivity, whereas that was not the case in 2023. And I think that I've been investing in AI for about 8 years now, so this is not the first bubble that I've seen. I think that it's really interesting, the intersection of AI and blockchain and all of the different companies that are experimenting in that area. And Lou has an accelerator, which he'll talk about. But that to me is a whole new narrative that did not exist in the last cycle. And I think, we're at this, there's always like a speculation element that gets things going. And right now that's meme coins. Last cycle, maybe NFTs. There was ICOs before that, et cetera. So I'm still really excited about all of it. And in addition, the real world.
All right. So, I was a former Wall Street analyst, and I left in January of 2000. I put out 2 price targets. First, in January of 2010, I put out a price target on Facebook. That worked out well. January 2021, I put a 10-year $1 million price target out on Bitcoin. Getting there through math, just simply, it's Bitcoin can be a lot of things, I think, but it is a store of value as well. And just on a store of value, I think the market is going to grow from 10 million to 40 trillion, from 10 trillion to 40 trillion. And if Bitcoin gets half of that, that's $1 million Bitcoin. And so I'm largely just looking around saying, okay, is there any reason to think that that's not going to happen? Because the only thing constant is change. And now with AI, I think that we're going to be able to solve lots of problems that we have not been able to solve before. Yesterday, we started an AI Web3 accelerator at the Collective, and one of the companies is solving for decentralized identity. All right, I think that's where it starts, and so I think in combination, it's so powerful, right? I think a lot of people who understand AI a lot deeper than me, see a future coming very quickly where there are going to be trillions of transactions, microtransactions a day. And my guess is that's not going to be handled by MasterCard.
So I have a more controversial view on the current state of crypto. I think with 400 million wallets, if we assume one wallet is one person, it's less than 4% of the world's population. 90% of these people are speculators. They wake up in the morning just to look at BTC price. They have actually never done a real transaction. People don't, if you go out on the road and ask people what is Bitcoin, they have no clue. They use some jing-bang words like decentralized, blah, 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 blah. People even don't know what a smart contract platform is. We are so early in the cycle. I compare this cycle like the 1980s of Indian stock market, where people never knew that a share represents the future earning potential of a company. And people bought on rumors, people sold on rumors. We had two scams, the Harshad Mehta scam and the Ketan Parekh scam, which is like FTX and all those scams. But the billionaires happened in 1980. Nobody became a billionaire in 2000s. So, and we are just like, if you remember, there was Angel Fire and Yahoo. We are so early that we can't predict who's the Google here or who's the Facebook here. So I think still 10 years to build up. Kathy Woods is not wrong when she says $1 million Bitcoin will come, because this will someday become.
I said it too.
Yeah, see, and again, for me, it's a good. I like this industry because it's young people, it's vibrant people. They're trying to change the world, but in the process, also making a lot of wealth for themselves. There are crazy things. Today on Times Square, I saw this big buzz talking about some meme coins. Again, these people actually don't know that a meme coin doesn't do nothing. It's about dumb money. I don't know how many of you have seen this movie, but yeah, it's a fun space to be in, and I'm enjoying it. So,
well, do you think dumb money is dumb money?
See, when masses get along, they can pull out miracles, but again, that doesn't last for long. People have to always invest in value. So, for example, the Shiba Inu founder, the anonymous founder, Shaitoshi, is a good friend. I'm leading his round in the new token as well. But sometimes, unless you don't have intrinsic value of what you're, because it's actually us investing in startups. In a startup, you're investing in equity. In a crypto startup, you're investing in the platform utility. There's no major difference. Sometimes in countries, people don't even understand that this is not a magic token. You're basically investing in a startup that will change how the future of KYC will be there, how exchanges will be there. But people don't even understand. They think it's a magic coin that will go 100x. People even bloody don't understand what, like people talk about Cardano. They're like, where will Cardano go? I'm like, how many smart contracts have you used on Cardano? So, it's all rumor-driven, all fun-driven, but it's a fun place to be. And NFTs are cool as well.
It'll take time, but we'll educate everyone.
Yeah, so before regulation, because every time people ask me that, last year they were saying regulation should come by the end of the year. I said regulation comes once masses are on board on an asset class. If you remember the stock market crashes, people climbed up the roof and jumped out. Nothing like that happened in crypto. So regulation will come much later. First, education has to come. I've asked CZ when he was there that, when are your people going to land up in Africa and tell people about the value of USDT? Not land up in Africa, to do trading. The use cases have to be educated. So still time, we'll build wealth till then.
I actually think that Web3 in this space right now, I'm very excited for it personally, just in terms of regulation. And we see this not only recently with the SEC, with them cracking down on NFTs, but you also see it with like SBF, right? Recently getting 25 years. So in terms of Web3 adoption, I think in this time right now, it is more interesting because the governments all understand that, they have to accept blockchain now, they have to accept Web3. So now they are opening it up, their doors, they're making it easier for their citizens, and they're making more regulations, especially within the EU. And I think as it pertains to AI, there's a chasm between like AI and Web3, and what we're seeing right now is there's projects, one of the Republic portfolio companies, Delysium, they actually have like an AI agent. So it's essentially like what you're doing in ChatGPT, right? So all you say is type in, hey, I want to buy 1 Ethereum. And then that's all you need to do. It'll automatically do that for you. I want to do more speculative trades here and there. I personally love like meme coins. I think it's way better than NFTs because NFTs were all about, all right, this is our roadmap. We're going to do this. These are our milestones we're going to hit. And 99% of these projects rug. As opposed to meme coins, like you look at their disclaimers, they're like, it's just vibes.
So that's what I like more. Like they're not lying, right? Like it's just all about speculation. Exactly. So it's like it's just a game that you're playing, but like and now within meme coins, like there's not really any lying going on. It's just more fun vibes.
Nisa, would you like to finish your thought? I want to make sure.
I can't remember it.
I will say that, I agree with Vineet that this really hasn't even started yet. My favorite all-time crypto tweet is from 2011. Some guy tweeted, "I can't believe I sold all my Bitcoin at 6 cents. It's 80 cents now." Everybody thinks they're late.
I hear you. And I can appreciate and respect the differing opinions here. I think that's going to make for a good discussion. Vineet, something you said struck a chord. Crypto's still a growth stage asset. We're still getting there. Education is so important. But with that, I do want to move to a bit of, where we see the future. So clearly, you all have a knack for, finding those emerging trends and doubling down on them when you're investing in startups or whatever it may be. I would love to hear what emerging trends are you keeping in mind and are you on the lookout for?
So I already mentioned the intersection of AI and blockchain, but a lot of what people don't necessarily talk about all the time is these other use cases of the technology, such as in climbing or universal basic income. I could go on and on, NFT ticketing, et cetera. But I think that what we're trying to do, healthcare is another one, we're trying to educate on all of the entrepreneurs that are building in those ecosystems, right? It's not necessarily disrupting financial services. That's a lot of wood to chop right there. But I'm excited to see the development of these other areas and other industries that are going to adopt the tech and how that's going to benefit humanity in a lot of different ways. And I don't think that gets enough media attention because it's not scandalous and it's not price movements. And so that's why we're doing the show.
Yeah, there's so much exciting stuff going on, right? Where it's like a Cambrian explosion going on. But for me, 2024, the most exciting thing going on is all the stuff on Bitcoin L2. A very smart guy just told me the other day that he thinks that Ethereum is going to end up as an L2 on Bitcoin.
So for us, as a fund, though we have, everyone has these segments which we invest in, I think for us, we also look at the founding team more than anything else and what they're trying to do. But looking at the overall segments that we have been investing in, I think there have been enough infrastructure plays. Everybody is making a highway. No one's bothering on the cars that will run on those highways. So we've done a lot of infrastructure plays during the bear market where people were ending up raising $15–20 million. At least they could survive the bear market. But now, because in a bull run, people raise $1 million and list a token in 2 days. $1 million is not even going to bloody run for 6 months. So when you look at things like Sui, which is they were raising $300 million, end up doing a $400 million round. When you look at something like Matic, when you look at Aptos, again, where will they go? I don't want to go there, but at least they had the runway to run the bear market. But now when we come to a more bullish market, it's all about how do we get the users on board. And users come from dApps, consumer-facing dApps. So we're more focused on something like gaming. We've been doing a lot of Korean gaming. There's a startup which has 200 million users from their Web2 space. Japan is seeing a lot of Web2 to Web3 movement. We're doing a lot of RWAs as well. I think getting a loan on Bitcoin is really cool. Aave and Compound did that. But how do we get the real world assets? The house is on chain. It's still not there. So real world assets is something interesting. NFTs is important, not just as an art, but as a way of building community. I don't consider CryptoPunk as an art. I consider it as a 10,000 group of people who really are successful in their life. It's like going to a club in London which has exclusive membership. So some of these plays are that which we are looking. It's dApps which get users on board. We did amazing stuff already, but adoption needs to come, and that will come from these dApps.
Going on that note, I think like the dApp that we kind of relate to the most would be within games.
It's very transactional, very immediate. So then having all of this on the blockchain, being able to reward your community is definitely a trend that we've been seeing at Republic, specifically within games, but also, like you were saying, with real-world assets as well. So I think another interesting part is actually putting all of the data of the AI, whether it be the algorithms or the data that you actually input into the LLM, having that be on chain as well, and then having those algorithms being able to verify, specific videos, prompts, text, whatever it be, but having it be a source of truth is definitely a trend that we're seeing as well.
Incredible. So climate and sustainability use cases, we have some gaming trends coming up, as well as how to get real world assets up on the chain.
There's one more trend. Startups from last season are changing their name and adding AI and saying, let's do AI in crypto. You actually can see that. A lot of them have changed their names.
I will say that's my pet peeve is, people using AI everywhere now. And it is something as investors, I'm sure you realize, right? It's something you have to decipher. That's something I'm learning about too. Awesome. So let's look on the flip side now. Are there any sectors or trends that you're staying away from? There's so much hype in this world. I mean, it's hard to decipher what's good versus what's investable. And are there any sectors that you believe to be overpriced as well?
I do think AI is overpriced. Seeded core weave, but we'll take the bump, but still. I think we stay away from hardware focused companies, so like any Bitcoin miners or anything like that. And other than that, I think we're pretty open. We'll look at mostly anything. So yeah.
I'll take the counter to AI being overpriced. There's something called Amari's Law. He was a professor at Stanford in the 70s when he coined it. And Amari's Law is the fact that the impact of all great new technology is overestimated in the short run and underestimated in the long run. So while you're right, AI might be overpriced relative to where it should be, I'm pretty sure if you buy a basket of it, of good ones and hold on, you'll crush it. For me, probably the area that I am least interested in, only because I started there when I started in 2017. My first startup, we were going to raise a $100 million security token fund, real world assets. And after we raised a couple $1 million to solve some of the legal and technical issues associated with real world assets in the US. And while we spent the money, we did not solve the problems. And that was at the end of 2018. I realized this is not going to be solved for many, many, many years. And here we are 5 years later, and once again, we're on the cusp of real world assets being a thing. I hope so.
I would love to ask you a follow-up on that. Do you think that not succeeding was a function of it not being the right time or not having enough resources? I'm trying to see, if this will be solvable in the coming years.
I think it's a function of, markets evolve and you need certain things to be in place, like a custodian. If somebody's going to buy a digital asset, the first thing is, what are they going to do with it? None of these people, want to have a wallet and self-custody, and the U.S. has shot most of the custodians that existed. So, that's problem number one. And then when you solve that, there's 2 and 3 and 4, and when you get to 10,000, you realize, probably not going to be a thing for a while.
So for us, as Cypher Capital, I think more than segment, not investing, it's about, we've coined this term as a need and a want case. So, you need water to survive, you need food to survive. Similarly, you need Ethereum because no matter what, 80% of the smart contracts are there. So this is a need-based token. Even you have BNB coin, in a bull run, you can make millions on the BNB launch pads. And then there's a want token. You want a Ferrari. If Ferrari doesn't come, you don't die. Similarly, there are these want tokens which are like, take my token and tomorrow I will have this e-commerce where I'll get a 30% discount. I can do that on Amazon. I don't need to basically come to your platform. There are a lot of governance tokens that are want case. How many of you have actually gone and voted on these things? So for us, we keep away from anything that is a pure play want system. they might be speculative, we might speculate on them, but again, as long as there's no hardcore need, users would not, because until there's no need, people will not hold on to that token. So for us, more than segment, it's where does this token actually end up getting utilized? Will people hold on to it? Will people, like NFTs has this amazing thing as well that people get hooked on to the art, the art represents them. So there's a very big need that's coming across. So it's based on these lines, nothing on segments.
I'd love to hold on to that. You mentioned, this need versus want. I love the idea. How do you measure that with something that's so new? And like you said, there's only less than 4% of the population that even know about it. How do you measure what's going to be a need versus want?
See, again, whenever, for example, when WorldCoin comes to you and say that in India, there's this thing about Aadhaar card, which is basically everyone is represented by an identity card. I think in the US also, social security number is something similar. So, there's a need to get every person on chain and verify it up. Today, everyone's running around airdropping, and, people have thousands of accounts which are being run on farms in China. So there's a need, you need a person to be tagged to a transaction. So you have to figure these points out. You have to look at the business model out, and then, when someone's coming that I'm building up a NFT platform, is there a need for another one? Is it a cross-chain platform? So, you have to actually, as a VC fund, you have to evaluate it up. And you really need to see how much market exists for this. Once you clearly understand, people are going to plant a tree in Africa and are raising $100 million for that. They have no idea how carbon credits can be tracked, so you can figure out bullshit from real world.
On that note, I definitely do agree. Like, not every company needs a token. Like, you can use other tokens, you know what I mean? And there's other ecosystems that you can leverage as well. One thing that we're really bullish on is actually like merging tokens and companies together and then essentially building a super app within one ecosystem versus just having a lot of different tokens kind of siloed. So on that note, I think this might be a little contradictory to what I previously said. Like, I'm very bullish on gaming within Web3, but not every gaming Web3 project needs a token, right? And so I think that's also something that I think is just very diluted. And then going back to what you were saying about needs and wants, it's kind of really evaluating that.
Incredible insights, and for the founders in the room, I'm sure that was very helpful. Let's move on to your portfolio companies. I'd love to hear about some of the challenges that you think they're facing. You work with them in and out, you mentor them. Are there challenges really around regulation? Is it technical implementation? Is it fundraising from other investors? What really is the challenge here?
I think last year it was definitely fundraising, and a lot of the companies would have had to have raised enough in the last cycle to even survive. Regulation in the US has definitely been a challenge for a lot of companies, particularly if they're in DeFi or if it's been unclear if it's a commodity, security, et cetera. Everything that's been going on the policy side in the US has made it very difficult. A lot of founders have moved overseas. And I think the usual challenges that go along with, startup life is just hiring, founder conflicts, getting PR, et cetera, legal issues, hiring, pricing, the list goes on and on. So we try and help them with all of that.
Yeah, I mean, startups are hard. I think the best startup book that I ever read, and I give it to lots of the founders that I invest in, is The Hard Thing About Hard Things, because it's hard for everybody. And particularly in the United States, our own government is making it even harder. And, I had one of my startups, I think I mentioned it before, their stablecoin as a service company. And, one day, they woke up and the government had put a bullet in the head of their custodian. And if you're a stablecoin company, you don't have a custodian, you actually don't have a company. And so they held an emergency board meeting, and they told the board that they're going into hibernation mode. Because the main reason that most companies fail is they run out of money.
And these guys were saying, we're going to hibernate, we're not going to run out of money. And they said, you know, for any of you board members who don't think that we'll be able to survive hibernation, you should be aware that this isn't our first time we've gone into hibernation. Turns out it's hard.
I think I agree with you. The last 2 years, the biggest challenge was raising capital, but raising capital was always a challenge for someone who had no clue. You know, we were always investing we've done close to 90 plus deals in 18 months. So we have been investing 3 to 5 times. But if you look in a bull run, there are founders who raise money without an Excel sheet on projections as well. I'm not sure if any of the VC founders in Web3 have actually asked for an Excel sheet of planned. Trust me, a lot of them don't even see. The message comes, we are closing the round in the evening, would you like to get it? Trust me, it happens like that. But I think looking ahead, you know, because for me, when we've been investing, we've been looking at things that will last till 2030. So one of the challenges with these guys who have ended up raising $5-10 million is treasury management. Everyone falls in love with this token. The token does $100 to $100 in the next 2 years, and they are thinking that it's going to be $1,000 soon. I think this is the time when founders have to understand that they need to manage their treasury. Even CZ sold OTC on Binance at $700 with a 30% discount because he was shoring up capital for the company to run. So one is treasury management. One is actually getting the product on road. You know, everyone has a great idea, but adoption needs to come. So getting to markets, you know, I'm really sorry, I don't think US is a crypto market. Latin America is a crypto market. You know, giving 20% API in Anchor protocol in US is foolish and unsustainable, but going to Lebanon and giving people USDT with 2% return is a stable model. So problem is none of the founders are actually looking at the markets that they need to go. They'll end up in Dubai and London and New York because it's so fun here and easy to raise money. But the real market is in Africa, in Latin America, in India, in Southeast Asia, which will happen over the next 6 years.
Take notes.
Going on that note, I think like community is a very important aspect within all of this. You go on Twitter, it's very easy to fake.
Community.
It's very easy to like fake your followers, you know, fake your likes and like all these metrics, but like it's actually like going into like the community channels, the Telegram, the Discords, actually seeing what they're talking about, not just GM all day. So I think that's a very big signal as well.
I was just going to say, one of the most insightful things that I ever saw about startups was there's a guy named Bill Gross. He started a company called Idea Lab. It was the original internet incubator, started in Los Angeles in 1994. My first startup was the 55th company, started in Idea Lab in January of 2000. In February, they raised $1 billion cash at a $10 billion valuation. And he did a TED Talk in 2016 where he did a data-driven analysis of the 250 companies he had started. 8 unicorns, the greatest business idea in the history of mankind, paid search, came from Idea Lab. And he said, you know, he thought when he started Idea Lab was all about the idea. That's why he called it Idea Lab. And then after a few years, he'd seen, like, he said, yeah, I saw some of my best ideas ruined by bad management. Some of my really bad ideas, like, you know, turned around and iterated till it became a great company. So then I thought it was all about management. And then I ran the numbers, and it turns out the dominant factor driving success of startups, timing.
So this thing about community is interesting because, you know, in Web2, they talk about paying customers. You know, when you look at Dollar Shave Club, why was it valued at such a big? Because they had a community which was ready to pay. So Web3 also has to understand as it evolves that they have to have a community that pays, not a community that comes to airdrop. Because there's this whole thing about making communities on airdrop. I just bought in a few ordinals known as Ink on BTC. Now, Ink on BTC had good art. I personally like the art. But the idea of the founder was that I want to build up a community where everyone gets an NFT. And he never had pre-sales. He never gave the whales a chance to buy everything. What happened in then, the community was all these guys in Southeast Asia who probably earn $1,000 ended up dumping 70% of the community dumped at a 10x. So the point is not just having a community, but having a community that has lifetime value, that has the power to buy, and that has the power to hold. So,
yeah, I mean, for me, when people say, what is Web3? I say, well, Web2 is all about how much money can I make off my customer, right? Web2 companies, they have conference calls where they brag about the profit margins they made
from their customers. And Web3 to me is all about how much utility can I give my community.
So for the founders in the room, some of them might be disheartening, but the good thing is that there are startups out there who are learning. So that's good to know. I had one more question, maybe rapid fire. Some startups that have been on your mind recently and have piqued your interest.
Fantastic.
Swarm, it's started in 2015. It was the original decentralized storage company.
Again, I can only talk about my portfolio startups, so it sounds more like shilling, but I think one of the startups that I don't personally like, but my team likes, is Bear Chain. They're those guys are super arrogant. I don't work with, but they're doing real good work. They personally, I think they will succeed. We have invested a big check in them, but my problem is I don't like founders who sometimes are on a different plane. So.
LimeWire and Delysium. Delysium. Juritsu, yes. Juritsu Gold.
You're too fast for my notes, but thank you all so much for coming. Guys, big round of applause.
Thank you.
Well, we're almost at the end, and we have a performance coming up. So let's welcome Esteemed to the stage.
Thank you for everybody that's still here. My name is Esteemed. I also go by Ink the Urban Myth. I have a really cool startup that's coming up in the music, Web3, augmented reality, AI space called Gold Hive. So yeah, I'm just gonna do a couple quick songs for y'all. Some smooth stuff for y'all to ruminate on. You can start it whenever. For y'all to ruminate on y'all way out tonight. So yeah. Yeah, you can play that whenever. That's cool. Yeah. You can find me at Ink the Urban Myth on Instagram. INK the Urban Myth. You can clap or snap or whatever you want to do. Yeah, okay. Hey. Okay. Constant contemplation. I've been patient. I've been waiting for more. Let's find out what's in store. Whoa. Okay, constant moderation. I've been drowning in a spaceship of dro. So look at us flow. Whoa. I said constant confrontation. So impatient, you can't let nothing grow. That's gonna kill you for sure. Whoa. Constant moderation on my window pane. She can't take the woes. I just live what I know. Whoa. Lately I think I got some anger issues. Lately I'm only seen to think about the stranger things. I know it's hard for you to cope, but you just need a new hobby. Cause your personal hell is paradise to somebody. You ain't alone. Nah, you ain't alone. People lie every day. People die every day. Don't catch the rabies. Don't be so sure. Yeah, that you got the cure. The dirty version's like, yeah, niggas die every day, bitches die every day. Go and catch the rays, but don't be so sure. Yeah, that you got the cure, that you got the cure, you got the cure, that you got the cure, you got the cure, that you got the cure, that you got the cure. Hold up, I said, hello, Mrs. Matrix, your flirtation pulls me out of my frame. Won't you swerve in my lane? Hey. Patient, but you ain't slick. Ain't nobody who could ruin my day. Please guard your ways. Hey, I said, walking contradiction, spitting fiction to existence. Schizophrenia is dangerous. How could you be so aimless? Yeah. Used to think and listen, now we only floss and glisten. All my friends are famous, and this juice is dangerous. But you ain't alone, nah, you ain't alone. People lie every day, people die every day. Don't catch the rabies, don't be so sure. Yeah, that you got the cure. Nah, you ain't alone. People lie every day, People die every day. Don't catch the rabies. Don't be so sure. Yeah, that you got the cure. So yeah, that's the cure. Thank y'all. I'm gonna do one more quick one for y'all, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Wherever I go, you know my heart's a safe space that you can call a home. Don't hesitate to call me on my cellular phone. Yeah, you know that you can call me if you want me. Yeah, wherever I roam, I know what's just a thrill and what won't leave me alone. Yeah, I'm not too proud to say there's just some things I don't know. Don't hesitate to call me if you want me. I said, oh, your love won't leave me alone. So it's only right that I play something to bring you home. Through the day and night, yeah. I'm in the streets chasing the moment. It's a lonely life, yeah, yeah. Who would have thought I'd be back around? I lived 100 lives before I ate my breakfast yesterday. Adriel scheming on how to make his rudiments levitt. Get savage. Can we go our separate ways without feeling embarrassed? Can I donate to the local Finnish establishment? I always go for mine no matter how hard it gets. Before I wrote this verse, I birthed 100 Nazareths. Yeah, I said, wherever I go, yeah. You know my heart's a safe space that you can't call a home. Yeah, so don't hesitate to call me on my cellular phone. Yeah, you know that you can call me if you want me. Yeah, wherever I roam, I know what's just a thrill and what won't leave me alone. I'm not too proud to say there's just some things I don't know. So don't hesitate to call me. Just call me. Yeah. Ooh, your love won't leave me alone. So it's only right that I play something to bring you home. Through the day and night, I'm in the streets chasing the moment. It's a lonely life. Who would have thought I'd be back around? So yeah, that's all I got. Thank y'all for staying. Ink the Urban Myth. This has been a great, great evening. This is funny. All right, yeah, thank you. Looking forward to catching up with all y'all after. For everybody else that's still in the room, make some noise for Sonia for putting together an amazing group of people together. For anybody who's never been to Sonia's events, the real action always happens outside at the networking. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks.